I always prided myself on helping my parents out since I landed my job in tech. They sacrificed so much for me growing up, so sending them money each month felt like the right thing to do. That changed last month when I was searching through Dad's home office for his insurance information after his heart attack. Tucked away in his desk drawer was their will. I should have respected their privacy, but something made me open it. My hands trembled as I read the words everything. Their house savings investments. All left to my younger brother Jake. Nothing for me. The guy who had been paying their bills for years would get nothing, while Jake, who never contributed a dime, would inherit it all. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by family. I grew up in a modest neighborhood in suburban Pennsylvania, the older of two brothers. My dad worked at a manufacturing plant for 35 years, putting in overtime whenever he could to keep us comfortable. Mom stayed home until we were in middle school, then took a part-time job at the local library. We were never rich, but we had enough. At least until Jake came along. From the beginning, my brothers seemed to get special treatment. 4 years younger than me, Jake had this way of charming everyone around him, especially our parents. When I brought home straight, as Dad would nod and say, "Good job, Brad." When Jake scraped by with C's, they would throw a celebration dinner because he tried his best. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. I worked hard in high school, earning a partial scholarship to Penn State. Even with the scholarship, I took out loans and worked 20 hours a week at a campus coffee shop to cover expenses. Meanwhile, Jake barely graduated high school. My parents drained their savings to send him to community college, which he dropped out of after one semester. They called it finding himself. After college, I landed an entry-level position at a software company in Boston. The starting salary was modest, but I lived with 3 roommates, brought lunch from home every day, and saved aggressively. Within 4 years, I was promoted to senior developer, then team lead. My financial situation improved dramatically. Around this time, my parents faced their own financial crisis. The manufacturing plant where Dad worked downsized, forcing him into early retirement with a smaller pension than planned. Their savings, already depleted from supporting Jake, took another hit during the 2008 recession. They had to refinance their mortgage just to stay afloat. Despite living several states away, I called them weekly. During one of these calls, Mom mentioned they might have to sell the house. Without hesitation, I offered to help. It started with covering their property taxes, then expanded to sending $2,000 monthly for their mortgage and utilities. I never considered it a loan. These were my parents. They had given me life, and now I could give back. Meanwhile, Jake continued his pattern of instability. He jumped between jobs, retail, food service, landscaping, never sticking with anything longer than 6 months. He started 3 different businesses that all failed within a year. After each failure, he would move back in with our parents for just a few months that inevitably stretched longer. During this period, I met Allison, a brilliant graphic designer who quickly became my best friend, then girlfriend, then wife. From the beginning, she noticed the imbalance in my family dynamics. "Your brother is 30 years old. Why are you still covering his living expenses?" she would ask. I defended Jake and my parents, making excuses about temporary setbacks and family loyalty. Allison supported my decision to help financially, but worried I was being taken advantage of. For 5 years, I sent money like clockwork. I paid for home repairs when their roof leaked and their furnace died. I covered medical bills when Mom needed knee surgery. I even funded their anniversary cruise to Alaska, all while Jake lived under their roof, contributing nothing. Then came Dad's heart attack. I immediately flew from Boston to Pennsylvania, racing to the hospital. The doctors said he would recover but needed bypass surgery. While gathering his insurance information from their home office, I found the will. That night at the hotel, I could not sleep. The image of that document kept flashing in my mind. Everything to Jake, nothing to me. I paced the room until dawn, my thoughts racing between anger, hurt, and disbelief. Around 6 in the morning, I called Allison, waking her up. "I cannot believe this," I said, my voice cracking. "All these years, all the money, all the support. For what, so Jake can inherit everything?" Allison listened patiently, then said what I needed to hear. "Your feelings are completely valid, Brad. You have every right to be upset, but you need to talk to them about this directly. She was right. After a quick shower and coffee, I drove back to the hospital. Dad was awake, looking frail against the white hospital sheets. Mom sat beside him, flipping through a magazine. They smiled when I entered, oblivious to the storm inside me. "We need to talk," I said, pulling up a chair. "I found your will yesterday." The color drained from Mom's face. Dad looked away, suddenly fascinated by the heart monitor. The silence confirmed everything. "How could you do this?" I asked quietly. "After everything I have done for you both," Mom immediately went on the defensive. "You had no business looking through our private papers, Brad." "I was looking for insurance documents for Dad," I countered. "But that is not the point. The point is, you are leaving everything to Jake, while I have been supporting you for years." Dad finally spoke, his voice weak. "Son, you have to understand. Jake needs it more than you do. He is not as capable as you are. You have a great job, a beautiful wife, a nice home. Jake has nothing." Because of his own choices, I snapped louder than intended. "And he has nothing because you both have enabled him his entire life." The argument escalated, and a nurse came in to check on Dad's elevated heart rate. I stepped into the hallway to cool down, only to run into Jake, who had just arrived. He looked disheveled, as if he had thrown on yesterday's clothes. The irony was not lost on me. I had flown in immediately, while Jake, who lived 20 minutes away, was just showing up the next day. "What is your problem?" he demanded, noticing my expression. I could not hold back anymore. "Did you know Mom and Dad have been living off my money for the past 5 years? That I send them $2,000 every month? That I paid for the roof repairs, the furnace, Mom's surgery, their anniversary cruise?" Jake's eyes widened with genuine surprise. "What are you talking about? Ask them yourself," I said, pushing past him into the room. What followed was the most heated argument we had ever had as a family. Jake claimed he had no idea about my financial support. Mom insisted they never asked me for money that I had offered. Dad remained mostly silent, his eyes darting between us, occasionally muttering that we needed to calm down. That evening, I called my therapist for an emergency phone session. Dr. Marshall had been helping me work through anxiety issues for years, and he guided me through the complex emotions I was experiencing. "What you are describing sounds like a pattern of emotional manipulation," he explained. "Your parents have created a dynamic where Jake's needs always come first, and your role is to provide support without question or recognition." His words crystallized something I had felt but couldn't articulate. I spent the next day calculating exactly what my parents could afford on their pension and Social Security. They would need to budget carefully, but they could manage their essential expenses without my support. That night, I drafted a formal email explaining my decision. I detailed every expense I had covered over the past 5 years, totaling over $120,000. I explained that while I loved them, I could no longer enable a system that devalued my contributions while rewarding Jake's irresponsibility. Their response came within hours. A long, guilt-laden message about family obligation and how they had sacrificed everything for me as a child. Jake sent a barrage of angry texts, calling me selfish and heartless. The final one read, "Dad could have died yesterday, and all you care about is money. What kind of son are you?" I blocked Jake's number and set up email filters for my parents' messages. The next morning, I flew back to Boston, emotionally exhausted. Allison was waiting at the airport with a tight hug and understanding eyes. "How are you feeling?" she asked as we drove home. "Like I just cut off my own arm," I admitted, but also relieved. "Does that make me a terrible person?" "It makes you human," she said, squeezing my hand. "Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary." The next 3 weeks passed in uneasy silence. No calls from my parents, no texts since I blocked Jake. I threw myself into work leading a critical project for a new client. At night, Allison and I would talk through my feelings, and twice a week I met with Dr. Marshall. "The hardest part of establishing boundaries," he explained during one session, "is weathering the initial storm of guilt and doubt. Your family is hoping you will give in, that the discomfort will be too much to bear." He was right. Every day I checked my phone, half expecting a message, half dreading one. The silence was both a relief and a new kind of pain. Then came a call from Aunt Susan, my mom's sister. "I just want to understand what is happening," she began cautiously. "Your mother says you have abandoned them because of some misunderstanding about their will." I laughed bitterly. "Is that what she told you? Did she mention the 5 years I have been supporting them financially while Jake contributes nothing?" Aunt Susan's silence told me everything. The family narrative was already established. I was the villain who abandoned his parents over money. That evening, while scrolling through social media, I saw a post from Jake, a photo of him beside a new Ford F-150 caption reading, "New wheels number blessed." The timestamp was just 2 days after my dad's heart attack. While I was helping our parents navigate medical bills, Jake was shopping for trucks. The first test of my resolve came a week later. An email from Mom with the subject line, "Electric bill due tomorrow." The body contained just the amount, $237.86. No greeting, no question, just the number, as if I was some kind of ATM. I did not respond. My stomach churned all day, my finger hovering over my phone several times. But I held firm. Jake started texting from different numbers since I had blocked his primary one. Each message more aggressive than the last, culminating in, "If Dad has another heart attack because of the stress you are causing, that is on you." A week later, Mom called to tell me Dad's condition was worsening. "The doctor says stress is making his recovery difficult," she said pointedly. "He keeps worrying about the bills." I felt the knife twist but reminded myself of Dr. Marshall's words about manipulation tactics. "I am sorry to hear that," I replied neutrally. "I hope he follows the doctor's advice about rest and medication." As the month ended, I knew the mortgage payment would be coming due. I waited, almost holding my breath, wondering how they would approach it. The answer came in a text message at 7:14 a.m. "The mortgage is due." No greeting, no context, no recognition of the relationship breakdown. Just a demand. I stared at those 4 words for a long time before typing my reply. "Ask Jake. He is getting the house anyway." The response was nuclear. Within hours, my phone exploded with calls and texts from extended family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, all expressing shock at my abandonment of my parents. Jake left voicemails threatening to pay me a visit if I did not step up. 2 days later, he made good on that threat. I was leaving a client meeting when I spotted him in the lobby of my office building. He must have driven the 6 hours from Pennsylvania, burning gas in his new truck to confront me. "We need to talk," he said, blocking my path. I suggested a coffee shop down the street, preferring a public setting for what was sure to be a volatile conversation. Once seated with overpriced lattes between us, Jake launched into his prepared speech about family loyalty and responsibility. I let him finish before responding. "Did you know I have been paying Mom and Dad's mortgage for 5 years?" I asked calmly. "They mentioned you helped out sometimes," he muttered. Helped out, I pulled out my phone and showed him my banking app scrolling through years of transfers. $2,000 every month plus extra for emergencies. Over $120,000 total. Jake's expression shifted from anger to confusion. "That cannot be right. They never said. And did you know they have left everything to you in their will? The house I have been paying for, the savings I helped them build back up, all going to you." His face went pale. "No," he said quietly. "I had no idea." That evening, we had a 4-way video call that changed everything. Jake, now armed with the full picture, joined me in questioning our parents' decisions. For the first time, they couldn't play us against each other. Mom broke down halfway through, admitting through tears that they had planned to leave everything to Jake because they thought it would motivate him to be more responsible if he had something to look forward to. "And what about me?" I asked. "Did you think I did not need motivation or recognition?" Dad, looking older than I had ever seen him, finally acknowledged the unfairness. "We took you for granted, Brad," he admitted softly. "You were always so capable, so independent. We just assumed you would be fine no matter what." The truth hurt worse than the betrayal. I had been punished for my competence, overlooked because of my success. In the weeks that followed, I maintained my boundaries despite continued attempts at emotional manipulation. The mortgage company sent a notice of late payment. Jake, faced with reality for the first time, sold his new truck and moved money from his gaming fund to cover the payment. My parents, finally confronting their financial reality, met with a financial advisor I recommended. The meeting was a wake-up call. Without significant changes, they would deplete their remaining savings within 2 years. I suggested family therapy, an idea Mom immediately rejected as airing dirty laundry. Dad, however, surprising us all, agreed it might help. After some resistance, Mom reluctantly consented. Our first session was uncomfortable, with Mom defensive and Jake sullen. But the therapist skillfully guided us through the decades of enabling behavior that had created our dysfunctional family system. By the third session, we were having conversations that would have been unimaginable months earlier. Meanwhile, I focused on my own healing. I joined a support group for adult children of emotionally immature parents, finding solace in stories similar to mine. Allison attended some meetings with me, gaining insight into the family dynamics that had shaped me. 6 weeks after our confrontation, my parents revised their will to divide assets equally between Jake and me. I assured them it was not about the money. I did not need or want an inheritance. What I wanted was the recognition of my place in the family, the acknowledgement of my contributions. I made a calculated decision to help with Dad's medical bills, only with strict conditions: no more guilt trips, no more manipulation, and full transparency about their financial decisions. We set up a separate account, specifically for his healthcare expenses, with transaction notifications sent to both Jake and me. The most surprising development was Jake's growth. Faced with actual consequences for perhaps the first time in his life, he secured a stable job at an auto parts store. He enrolled in financial counseling and started contributing to our parents' expenses. Small amounts at first, but consistent. 6 months after finding that will, we gathered for Thanksgiving dinner. The atmosphere was different, slightly awkward but healthier. Jake talked about his promotion to assistant manager. Mom mentioned joining a book club with neighbors. Dad, now recovered from his surgery, discussed his walking routine. When the pumpkin pie was served, Dad cleared his throat. "I want to say something," he began, uncharacteristically emotional. "Brad, your mother and I owe you an apology. For years, we took advantage of your generosity while failing to give you the recognition and respect you deserved. We are trying to do better." I felt tears prick my eyes, but blinked them away. "Thank you for saying that," I replied simply. Later that evening, as Allison and I drove back to our hotel, she asked how I felt. "Different," I said, after considering. "For the first time, I do not feel responsible for fixing everyone's problems. It is like putting down a weight I have been carrying so long I forgot it was there." Our relationship grew stronger through this crisis. Allison and I developed deeper communication patterns, discussing our own future financial decisions with new clarity. We agreed to establish firm boundaries with both our families from the beginning, preventing similar issues down the road. The most unexpected outcome was my evolving relationship with Jake. The week after Thanksgiving, he asked if I would help him create a proper budget. We spent an afternoon on video chat, setting up spreadsheets and talking through financial basics I had learned years ago. For the first time in our adult lives, we were connecting as brothers rather than rivals. "I never realized how much you were doing for Mom and Dad," he admitted during one of our calls. "I just assumed they were managing fine on their pension." "And I never gave you the chance to step up," I replied, recognizing my own role in the dynamic. "I just took over everything without discussion." The healing process with my parents has been slower, more complicated. Old habits die hard, and occasionally Mom still slips into guilt trip mode. But now I can recognize it for what it is rather than immediately reacting. Dad and I have started having weekly phone calls, just the two of us. We talk about sports, politics, his garden, normal father-son topics without the undercurrent of financial obligation. Slowly, we are rebuilding our relationship on more equal footing. I have learned that sometimes real love means saying no, that supporting someone is different from enabling them, and that self-respect is not negotiable, even with family. The journey has been painful but necessary. By standing up for myself, I not only reclaimed my own worth, but gave my family the opportunity to grow in ways they never would have otherwise. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had never found that will. Would I have continued sending money indefinitely, never questioning the arrangement? Would Jake have ever learned responsibility? Would my parents have ever seen me as more than their financial safety net? I will never know those answers. But I do know that facing that difficult truth was the best thing that could have happened to our family. Not because of the money, but because it forced us all to confront the unhealthy patterns that had defined us for decades. Now, when my mom calls, she asks how I am doing before mentioning any needs. When my dad emails, he shares memories and thoughts, not just bills. And when Jake texts, it is to share a joke or ask for advice, not demand help. The inheritance is not just about assets anymore. It is about the emotional legacy we choose to pass on, and that more than any amount of money is worth protecting. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that hurt in the moment, but ultimately improved your relationships? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about setting healthy boundaries and family dynamics. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful growth.